a warm welcome here in our studio in Serekunda. This is Star TV News with me, Maimuna Jufadera. In the headlines tonight, China donates personal protective equipment to the Gambia health sector. Stranded Senegalese nationals to receive compensation. Brufood VDC provides food to vulnerable people in Brufood. On the international scene, many in Johannesburg are going hungry. In US, undocumented health care workers face deportation threat. Farmers, sheepheads face loss of livelihoods in occupied West Bank. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. As the number of cases increases in the Gambia, the People's Republic of China on Wednesday donated personal protective equipment to the Gambia through the Ministry of Health. The donation was held in Koto at the Center Drugstore. Modu El Baji was there and he now reports.
The donated items are meant to reinforce the country's health sector in fighting the global pandemic. The Chinese government deems it necessary to give a helping hand in combating the coronavirus in its affiliated countries, which the Gambia is not an exception. The donated items were 20 sets of infrared thermometers, medical gloves, 250 pieces of protective clothes, 250 pieces of medical gloves, and more. The Ministry of Health, Dr. Ahmadu Lamin Samate, said the donated items will go a long way in mitigating the spread of the COVID-19. He furthered that this will accelerate their response to the pandemic. He also reacted on the consignment of concussion that was received from Madagascar in order to combat the virus.
As said earlier, the PPPs are very, very important because we know COVID-19 is an infectious disease. That can move from one person to the other. So the point is our people at the various service points need to be protected. They need to be protected whilst they perform their duties. So that is why we are very, very happy today. This adds to the quantity of PPEs we have in country, and this goes to strengthen our response, and so our people can work at the various service points with some degree of protection. That is why we are very happy that these PPEs have arrived. Yeah.
During these days, we learned that from other media sources that the Gambia has also received its consignment from Madagascar regarding this help. What is your take on it?
Yes, so these we have received our consignment. They came from the government of Madagascar. It's a donation from the government of Madagascar that we have received. Now, we have not started using them, but we are analyzing them. You know, because this donation went to many countries, not just the Gambia. Senegal got it, other neighboring countries got it from Madagascar, so we have received our consignment. But really, when these things come up, we cannot discard them because we don't have any other option. We don't have any other treatment for COVID-19. So when there are claims or suggestions that some item, some product can help to prevent or treat COVID-19, I think it should be given the attention that it deserves. So our people are going to look at it, our scientific committees are analyzing it, our clinical committees are going to sit down and put things together, and probably in collaboration with sister countries like Senegal, so we see whether it will be beneficial for our people. But there are modalities to use, just in case we are going to use it, there are various steps, various protocols to follow for its use.
However, an association called the Gambia Scientists Association reported that they are currently working on a vaccine for the COVID-19. But what sounds so dramatic is that the Minister of Health said he is not aware of any vaccine being worked on in the Gambia. Ambassador Marjan Chun highlighted the importance of this donation, adding that China is working on modalities to help African countries during this hard period and after the pandemic.
PPE is very necessary. It's very timely arrived in the African countries to provide assistance to the medical staffs. It's very necessary. It's very important So that's why most of the donations, most of the donations are the PPEs, because this is consumption every day. So you need a lot of these PPE things. That's why we provide these PPEs. Yeah.
Meanwhile, what are the other activities that you have in line in the Gambia? The Chinese embassy, the technical team, what are they doing around?
We think about how to provide assistance to the African countries, not only just during this pandemic period. Also, we are thinking after this pandemic, how do we work together to resume the production? That's very important. So now, our embassy is working with our ministries, like Ministry of Health, like Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are thinking, try to organize a batch of the agriculture productive supplies. We're now working on that. We try to ship it to the Banjul and send to our Gambian people. It's a good gesture, good support, and also important gesture for people to resume the production after the pandemic.
In a similar engagement, Action Against Hunger also donated fuel coupons and notepads to the Ministry of Health as part of their determination in combating the global pandemic, which the minister, Ahmadou Lamin Samate, described as timely. Reporting for Star TV, I am Modu Elbad.
The Senegalese High Commissioner to the Gambia briefed the media on issues overclouding the financial support allocated to their citizens in the diaspora regarding supporting stranded citizens. The briefing was held at the High Commissioner's complex in Kanifing on Tuesday. More on this report with Mati Senghor.
Stranded Senegalese citizens in the diaspora as a result of the COVID-19, and even those in the Gambia are to receive financial support from their government in Dakar. This gesture is due to the benevolence of the Senegalese president to his people in the diaspora. The Senegalese High Commission to the Gambia, His Excellency Bassirou Sène, revealed that his embassy has received the first consignment of the said money, 10 million CFA, and he further indicated on how they plan to distribute the money.
Are dedicated for three categories of Senegalese abroad. The first one are those who are in transit. They are blocked here in Gambia. When the border was closed, they couldn't reach again their country, Senegal. The second category was those who are infected by the disease, those who are hospitalized and are in the hospital. And the third one is the family who lost parent from the disease. It is the third one. At that time when we received the money, we didn't have any Senegalese infected by the disease. We didn't have any family also impacted by the disease. We had only those who were in transit. And when we give information, 17 of them present themselves to the embassy and ask for help. These 17 names and ID card was sent to Dakar, and after we had authorization to pay them, and they are already paid. They were paid 250,000 CFA francs, 250,000. Voilà, 250,000 CFA for each. It is around $22,000. It is $20,000. So they were given $20,000, and now I think they go back to Senegal. I don't know. En tout cas, they are already paid. Now we have since this last week, we have registered also 5 to 7, I'm told, Senegalese impacted by the disease, and they will be also paid to $20,000.
For the second consignment, which the High Commissioner described important, is said to be 100 million CFA. His Excellency Bassirou Sène further took time to shed light on how the second consignment is going to be distributed within the Senegalese in the Gambia.
50,000 CFA francs. It will be around 4,000 and something. And for this part, they say it will be for those who are retired people is number one. Second one are those who are on informal trade. Those people trading in Serekunda or in Banjul without having their own office. They are trading in informal situation. The third one are those who are in vulnerable situation. Those who are handicapped, have handicap, those who are really in difficulty.
The High Commissioner noted that all eligible Senegalese nationals who are to receive this gesture must present their identity and consular card. However, he also urged the beneficiaries to wear face masks to avoid overcrowding in order to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Mati Senghor.
The Safara Mangsingate Foundation donation is meant to cut the cost of feeding expenses at the psychiatric hospital during these trying times as a result of the COVID-19. The donation was held on Tuesday. Jacqueline Coalition in this report.
During this period of Ramadan, the availability of bread is a big challenge in many communities. But Safra Mangsingate Foundation deems it necessary to dip into their coffers to make it available at the country's only psychiatric center. Furthermore, the officer in charge at the Tanka Tanka Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Lamin Barrow, said at the mid of this pandemic, every donation is important. He further expounded how these donated foodstuffs will help their institution.
This foodstuff today is going to be given to people who need it more than probably the giver who thinks he gives. These patients here today have something in common with all of us. That is a feeling, that is love. So if you have the heart and the feeling that you should share that love with them, I think that's one of the most beautiful things any person can do. Yeah, so these foodstuffs, the bread that they have brought, will be of great benefit to the patients today because this will be immediately used by the patients as the next meal. Yeah.
If you were to express any word to these people, what will be your words?
Anyway, I will say who feels it knows it. Because we working here, we are the one who feels it most. So when someone outside brought a desire good to us, that is going to be something beneficiary to the patients and the people of this hospital, we are so grateful for people of that nature. Because in the Gambia, we have a population approximately of 2 million. Out of that, this is just a segment of that. We can say a significant order, just a subunit, a small amount, probably 0.0 something % of the Gambian population have thought about sharing their daily income resource with the people of Tanka Tanka. That is something of credit to those people because there are so many philanthropists outside there in the Gambia who are wealthy enough, probably more than these people and who they stand for. They have not thought about giving a hand to Tanka Tanka. So when these people do, I will say a very big thank you to them for this beautiful gesture that they have made up.
The country of director of Safra Mangsingate Foundation, Mustafa Fai, spelled out the motive behind their donation. He also urged those injecting their funds not to be donor fatigue.
On behalf of the Safra Mangsingate Foundation, to present bread to our own families. Okay, our foundation is a premise of supporting and assisting all people because this was the way Safra Mangsingate, for whom the foundation is named, live in his life. Okay, he was an extraordinary philanthropist on his time, and to preserve his legacy as his great work for humanity. We intend to follow in his footsteps, he imprints and in this country.
The foundation has been donating food items to various communities since the inception of the global pandemic. Moreover, this charitable organization was named after the Gambia's first governor, Sir Framang Singate, who devoted his time and resources in serving humanity. Jacqueline Coley, reporting for Star TV News.
Since the government declared a state of emergency in the Gambia as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, many families are experiencing financial difficulties to access food as the majority lives from hand to mouth. The Brufood Village Development Committee, in collaboration with the Brufood Diaspora Association, provided 50 bags of 25 kg rice, 25 bags of onions and 50 gallons of cooking oil to 50 vulnerable households in Brufood. The gesture is in connection with the fight against the deadly COVID-19. Mariama Dem was in Brufood and she now reports.
As the COVID-19 pandemic resorts to a state of emergency in the Gambia, many families are experiencing financial difficulties to access food as the majority lives from hand to mouth. The gesture is in connection with the fight against the deadly virus COVID-19. The VDC chairman, Parliament Fati, says they came up with the food provision to help the vulnerable people facing financial difficulties in their community in response to the fight against COVID-19.
Laudable initiative about 2 weeks ago. So what we decided was there are people living within our midst whom, their hands are not too long, they are short-handed people. In that sense, financially and morally, their support in feeding themselves becomes a problem. As we all know, the regulations of COVID-19 is stay at home, wash your hands. So if you stay at home, you are not able to go about and then get something for the family, it becomes a burden for you. So we decided to raise a fund and then buy some items and give it to the needy. So we were able to buy 50 kilograms of safla, 25 kilogram bags of rice, 50 bags of 25 kilograms. We bought 50 5-liter oil, cooking oil drums, 25 bags of onion, which are to be divided into 2, so that we can have the number 50, 50, 50. And this has gone through. So from here, we are going to do our presentation to the needy. We have 50 names as we have 50 items. So we have 50 names, both men and women. The beneficiaries, some of them are disabled, some of them are not able, some of them are widows. So these are the targets we use to distribute these items to. And I hope it will reach down very well to them.
He further thanked their partners for the great support they rendered to the Brufood community, especially in these hard moments. The president of the Brufood Diaspora Association, Yusuf Mane, also made similar remarks during the ceremony.
Attend this occasion here, which the VDC has provided for in connection with this COVID-19 program, the programs that are happening all around Gambia and all around the world. They also made this effort to provide for those who cannot afford for themselves, and they need to sit at home. Sitting at home without any food, that's very difficult. So the VDC has taken it upon themselves to provide for those people who need help. So with that, they have been in the program for quite a while, but today they produce all this here for those people.
The fund was generated through fundraising organized by the Brufood Village Development Committee in partnership with the Brufood Diaspora Association and some individual donors. The food items are distributed among disabled, widows and the most vulnerable people in the village. Mariama Dem, reporting for Star TV News.
And now the news beyond our borders. Johannesburg has been locked down for more than 6 weeks, along with the rest of South Africa. Many businesses remain closed, leaving families without work and unable to buy food. This has caused a sharp increase in the number of people in dire need of food assistance. Well, Al Jazeera's Famida Miller reports from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Candice Plain says she's making the most of the little food she has. She lost her job at a Johannesburg printing company when it was shut as the lockdown began weeks ago. With no income, she depends on government support to feed her 4 children.
For me, from the lockdown, it was really hard for me. Many a times it was really difficult because it was for a whole month. We had to wait for the whole month to get like the child support money. So it was a struggle for me every day until we received the money last week. Last week I had to go to buy toiletries and buy chicken and stuff like that. To buy full groceries for the month. But at the end of the day, we're still struggling.
The mayor of Johannesburg says people in 1 million households don't have enough to eat. The national government in Pretoria has increased the child support grant, and it's created a special grant of $20 a month to help workers who've lost their jobs survive the lockdown. Government leaders say they're spending the equivalent of almost $3 billion on the unemployed and the poor. But even before the lockdown, 45% of Johannesburg's 5.5 million people lived in poverty. To make the crisis even worse, many workers have lost their jobs since the lockdown began. The government says it's handing out food parcels to about 2,000 homes every day, but it's simply not enough. Organizations like this one are trying to help fill the gap by handing out 2 cooked meals every day. Nuran Gain has run this food charity for 7 years, but says she can barely keep up since the lockdown began.
When I've started the feeding, we started with about 150, and it's turned over in a matter of a week after the lockdown to almost 400 to 500 per day. Saturdays I did 300. Right now we're standing on 1,200 on a Saturday alone.
The organization relies on donations, and she's not received any help from the government. Delia Jones has run this barbershop for 16 years. It's been closed for weeks, leaving 4 staff members with no work and Delia without any income. She's applied for a government grant but has not heard back. Instead, her customers help her buy food. With an economy largely stalled and no clear indication of when the lockdown will end, many are relying on handouts to survive. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
The United States is the worst affected country by coronavirus in the world, but thousands of its frontline healthcare workers could soon be forced out of their jobs. That is because many are undocumented immigrants who arrive in the U.S. as children, and an expected Supreme Court ruling could get them deported. Al Jazeera's Heidi Castro reports.
When Jose Aguiluz came to the United States at age 15, it was to fight for his life.
I was in a very bad car accident that I broke my neck, and my parents decided that they couldn't do the surgery in Honduras.
In the U.S., the medical team that saved him also inspired a new path for his future.
I saw the care that the nurses provided to me, and I decided that I wanted to be one of them.
The family settled in the U.S. despite having tourist visas. Jose studied and earned a nursing degree, but discovered no hospital would hire him due to his immigration status.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Then came former U.S. President Barack Obama's 2012 announcement of a program called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA.
We want justice for our people,
giving young undocumented immigrants a chance at the American dream.
Eligible individuals who do not present a risk to national security or public safety will be able to request temporary relief from deportation proceedings and apply for work authorization.
With DACA, Jose became an operating room nurse and progressed in his medical career. Now he's treating COVID-19 patients at a field hospital in Baltimore, Maryland.
I don't introduce myself to my patients that Jose, I'm a nurse and a DACA recipient. You know, for them, I'm just Jose the nurse, and that's going to be taking care of them in their time of need.
On his day off from the field hospital, Jose volunteers here at a COVID-19 drive-through testing site where he takes samples from patients. He doesn't get paid for this work. He says he does it to give back to a community that's given him so much.
I feel it's my responsibility to help and help other Americans, or immigrants, and anyone in this country.
According to the National Immigration Law Center, 27,000 frontline healthcare workers in the United States are immigrants covered by DACA. But whether they can remain on the job during this time of crisis depends on a U.S. Supreme Court ruling expected within weeks. The High Court will decide whether the Trump administration may cancel DACA, as it intends to do.
We're all
reaping the benefits really of this group of individuals who are working on the front lines, protecting us all at the same time, not extending just the basic benefit of allowing them to stay in the United States. It's a really uncomfortable and tragic position that we've put ourselves in.
Without DACA, the young immigrants face the threat of deportation. That means the thanks Jose may receive for helping America overcome the coronavirus pandemic is a boot out of the country. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
In the occupied West Bank, farmers and sheepheads are being hit by the coronavirus pandemic. A lockdown across the territory has slowed an economy that was already in crisis. They have been left without any markets to sell their produce, and it could threaten their way of life. Al Jazeera's Nida Ibrahim reports from the Jordan Valley.
The impact of COVID-19 can be felt all across the occupied West Bank, even for those living in remote communities. Naif Kharbish is a Bedouin living near Al-Oja village in the Jordan Valley. No cases of the virus have been reported here. Livestock has been her main source of income for decades. Now she says it's becoming a burden. Sales of sheep usually increase before Islamic holidays, and Naif was gearing up for a high season. But closures imposed by the Palestinian Authority to control the outbreak of COVID-19 have slowed down the market. She's now having to pay extra money to feed the animals she couldn't sell, and has stopped making goat cheese popular among Palestinians.
We made cheese and no one wanted to buy it. It lasted for a week before it went bad and I threw it away. So I switched to making a dried form of yogurt so it can last longer. We don't have fridges because there's no constant electricity.
Just several meters away from this Bedouin community is an area declared as a nature reserve by Israel. Any Palestinian construction requires a permit from the Israeli authorities, but they're almost never granted. Palestinians in the Jordan Valley already have limited space to expand, but limitations of movement because of COVID-19 mean that shepherds and farmers are facing greater difficulties. Although the agriculture sector is not expected to be affected as much by the pandemic, there is a growing risk.
Shepherds used to have natural grazing lands in the Jordan Valley, but they lost thousands of hectares of lands due to the expansion of Israeli settlements. This increased costs of feeding the herds by 75%.
To cover some of his losses, Abdel Hakim Al-Asmar says he had to lower his prices by 40%. In the beginning of the state of emergency in March, he couldn't find buyers and didn't want his crop of chickpeas to go to waste. No cases of COVID-19 were reported here, so he was still able to farm the land.
If we have more closures here, it will be disastrous. It's my only source of living. We fear that we might be asked to leave. This is not a store to shut down. If I leave the land for a couple of days, I will lose it.
The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank has decided to gradually relax its restriction. But vulnerable communities like this one are expected to feel its impact for months to come. Nida Ibrahim, Al Jazeera, the occupied West Bank.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. China donates personal protective equipment to the Gambia health sector. Stranded Senegalese nationals to receive compensation. Brufood VDC provides food to vulnerable people in Brufood. Many in Johannesburg are going hungry. In US, undocumented healthcare workers face deportation threat. Farmers, sheepheads face loss of livelihoods in occupied West Bank. Well, that's all for this edition of today's News at 8. Please do enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful night. Bye for now.